Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Promotion Pro series. My name is Josephine Hannon, but you can call me Jose. I'm the founder of Promote Her Business, where it is our mission to promote your business and each other. Say it with me now. Online, offline,
all
all
the
the
time.
time. Boom, shakalaka. We said that in rhythm. How synchronized are we? That's awesome. And and talking about being in sync. Going into the new year, we picked the perfect topic to talk about today. And our topic today is planning for profitability and productivity. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, it would be nice not just to be in business, but to be profitable or to even shoot for that six-figure or beyond income level going into this next year, this is the perfect interview to be on, to listen to take copious notes for, and to also make sure you get out your handout. There is a handout that was emailed to you, which is a plan for profitability that we are going to cover later in this interview today. So today, the reason that we're talking about planning for profitability is really threefold. The first reason is because planning allows you to save time and avoid overwhelm and avoid having to redo things. I mean, think in your own business, how many times have you had to redo it because you didn't plan it right the first time, right? The second reason we're talking about this is because planning saves money, so you can spend the right amount of time on the right things. And then the third reason we're talking about this is so you can create more time to really focus on what you love. And if anybody knows how to do that, how to help others save time, save money, focus on the right things in the right order, avoid overwhelm, it's Sherry Koffeld. Sherry is not only our beloved chapter advisor, but I also wanted to tell you just a little bit about her background and some things I bet you didn't even know about Sherry. So Sherry is the founder and CEO of Results Partner Business Coaching and Consulting, and she's really known as your results partner because she's not just about supporting you in a plan, but she's supporting you in a plan to get what? To get results and be your partner along the way to success. And she has over 30 years, that's over 30 years of experience as a corporate quote unquote survivor. I've been there. I love that, Sherry. Multiple 6 and 7 figure small business owner, marketing consultant, and results coach. And she just really does her best when she's working with big thinking entrepreneurs who have a clear vision and are ready to ramp up their business to 6 figures and beyond. So if that is you, if going to 6 figures or beyond is you, then let's get this interview on the road. Cool, Sherry, are you there?
I am here, and you can hear me, right?
I can totally hear you loud and clear. That's awesome. So I know when we talked about doing this topic, it was a topic that's just really near and dear to your heart, and you were so enthusiastic about being our expert of the month. So can you tell us a little bit about why you're so excited about this topic, and especially why are you excited about this topic for specifically our Promote Her Business community?
Absolutely. So honestly, the reason why I'm so passionate about planning and the value of planning is because I've seen the price that entrepreneurs pay for not doing it. And, we've all been there as entrepreneurs. I've been there too many times. That feeling of constantly putting out the fires or feeling like you're behind the 8 ball. And you mentioned earlier, in that cycle of the do redo. And all of that leads to the overwhelm. And that's the biggest thing that I see that stops entrepreneurs is that they get into that cycle of overwhelm and they almost get paralyzed. They don't know where to go next. And, there's a saying, a confused mind does nothing. Well, an overwhelmed mind sometimes does nothing as well. It also causes a lot of overspending for entrepreneurs because they haven't thought through doing the right things in the right order. They end up spending money on things before it's time, before they're ready for it, and implementing a lot of things that maybe aren't right for their business given where they are in the stage of their business that they're in. They don't have that foundation in place. There's a quote from Zig Ziglar that I love, and it says, you can't hit a target you can't see, and you can't see a target you don't have. And to me, that kind of sums it up, because all a plan does is give you a target that you can clearly see, so that you know the actions that you're taking are moving you towards that target. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And I think, as everyone's listening to Sherry today, I really want you thinking about where you fall on this spectrum, looking at your past experience and seeing if you have a dartboard anywhere in sight.
Absolutely. And sometimes, it's funny, it's interesting you mentioned that dartboard, because that's one of the things I hear about planning a lot of times. Like, well, I have no idea. And the fact of the matter is, all a plan is setting an intention for our best guesstimate, and it is somewhat of a guess a lot of times, of what we want to do, what our results are going to be, and then letting the plan fit those goals, basically. It's kind of putting it out there for the universe. And while we're going to put some structure around it, we're also going to let the universe support us in making that goal come true.
I love that. Now, I know, there's many women and entrepreneurs that I know of. They have, they have good intentions, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's tough. It really is tough for a lot of people to go from lip service to action. But why should they anyway? Why should they take time out of their super busy, big lives to make sure planning happens?
Well, bottom line is what you just said at the beginning. Bottom line, planning helps you avoid the overwhelm. And what I do know from 18 years doing this, and of course, 13 years in corporate before that, every hour that you spend on planning is going to save you at least 3 hours in do, redo, overwhelm, and that constant cycle that you might be in right now. And if that isn't time enough, just like what you said at the beginning, there's 3 key ways that planning serves you in your business. It saves you time always, because it allows you to be focused on what's going to give you the biggest results, and it increases your productivity because, again, you're focused on the right few things, so you're more productive. It saves you money because you're not investing in things at the wrong time or too early in your business, and you're instead focusing on spending your hard-earned resources, right, on just those few things that are going to make a difference in your business. And it fosters creativity. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs that are particularly a little bit more right-brained that'll say, oh, well, I don't want to plan because I'm creative. And the truth is, when you're creative, it's almost more important that you do a plan, that you have a plan, because that plan provides that foundation for you so that you can let the plan provide the structure, which allows you the time, because the plan is keeping you focused and accountable. It allows you the time to be creative and fosters that creativity. So it creates ease in your business. That's the bottom line. I so believe we got into business as an entrepreneur for freedom, right? Most of us said we want to get out of whatever we were in before, whether it's corporate or otherwise, because the freedom. Well, I truly believe the freedom's in the plan. And I think you'll believe that too. And I also should mention that also doesn't mean that it doesn't allow for intuition. As females, most of us in promoter business are women. We have great intuition, and we want to allow our intuition to help drive our plan, and then balance the masculine side, if you will, of the structure of planning with that feminine need for kind of the feeling and the flow. And that's part of the beauty of the way I approach the plan, is it allows both.
That's beautiful. And I was curious, I mean, when you were talking about creatives and planning and the plan allowing for them to then be able to focus on creative endeavors, I was also curious, I mean, do you consider planning itself a creative endeavor?
Absolutely, absolutely. The plan is where you can get creative about what are the ways that I can drive my business, and planning's all about brainstorming, and that's creative, right? So come up with the 40 ideas that you have for your business. The goal, however, is to start narrowing those ideas down to the ones that are going to drive the best results the fastest in your business. and that becomes the crux of your plan. It doesn't mean you throw out those other ideas, by the way, because one of your ideas may not work, for instance. And as an entrepreneur, we get to be flexible, and if something's not working, we get to shift and try something else.
So where do you recommend, because I mean, we definitely have a lot of creatives in our community with ideas that are bigger than notebooks. So, so where do they put all these other ideas that they have so they remember them, if they're not going on their plan?
Yeah, great question. So in the process that I use with my clients, we do a lot of whiteboarding, or I use flip charts. And so those flip charts don't have to go away. When you brainstorm those 40 ideas and you start prioritizing, those ideas you can either just leave on the flip chart, so you have them to pull out when you need some creativity, or you feel like you need to shift something that's not working. Or if you like more the computer, you can type them up and keep them in a Word file on your computer, or you can write them in a planner. Keep them somewhere in front of you so that when you need inspiration of, you know what, this isn't really working, I need to shift here, you can go back to those ideas. So they're always in front of you and you don't lose them. I call it the parking lot. So sometimes brainstorming, you've talked about putting things in a parking lot. Well, that becomes your parking lot, basically, of ideas.
Cool. And I'm curious, I mean, do you feel like there's some types of women or entrepreneurs that it's more important for them to plan than other entrepreneurs? Something that I've definitely heard is, let's say I joined a company and they told me just to go out and talk to people. I don't really need a plan, or I don't have employees. Do I really need a plan? Or I've been doing just fine. I've never had a plan, so do I need one now, right?
Yeah, and I hear that same thing all the time, Joe. And the fact, at least my truth, is that every business needs a plan. And of course, the bigger your business is, the more income streams you have, whether you have employees or not, the more products and services that you're managing, the need for more detail may increase. But even the entrepreneur who hasn't yet found their first client needs a simple plan to make sure, again, that they're doing those right things in the right order in the startup phase. In fact, the reason that so many entrepreneurs, in my opinion, struggle to get that first client is they don't have a plan. So they're running around kind of doing everything under the sun without any clarity on the basics. That shiny object syndrome that so many of us as entrepreneurs really suffer from, because so many of us are visionaries, is really, really dangerous in that startup phase, because you're always hearing about some new idea of something you could implement in your business. And the only thing I can guarantee you is, if you try to do all of them, you're not going to be successful. You're going to do a little bit of everything and nothing is really going to work. It's only when you start narrowing in and focus on what I recommend is 3 strategies, and 3 strategies only, to grow your business, that you're going to start seeing those results come in.
Cool. And I know now you've piqued our interest, these 3 strategies. How do people learn about these 3 strategies?
Well, basically the way that I approach it is I use a 5-step process. I call it excuse me, the power profit pyramid, or power profit formula. And it's really about narrowing down. So when we talked about brainstorming, and you start wide and you put every idea out there, and then you start narrowing down. But honestly, the first and most important place to start is with your vision. When you think about what's going on in your business and your life, you get to be really clear on what it is that you want, not just for your business, but how you want your business to fit into your life. Because your life doesn't get to fit into your business. Your business gets to fit into your life. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? Because we want to create that lifestyle. So too many entrepreneurs start from the business and they build this business that they can look back all of a sudden and it doesn't even fit into what they wanted. A long time ago, I worked with a client, and she's always comes to mind when I talk about this, that she was a language tutor, and she built a business as a language tutor working with high school and college kids. Well, of course, that kept her working a lot of nights and weekends, because she had to work with her kids, right, after school or weekends. When I asked her what she really wanted a lifestyle where she could travel a lot and be doing her business from anywhere in the world. Well, she created a business that didn't allow her to have that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So she totally actually changed her business, changed her ideal client, and started working with business executives who were tapped in their companies to go overseas. And they needed to learn a language quickly. And she started working with them for immersion language tutoring, which she could then do anytime, because executives, they were working during the day, and she could do it from anywhere because she was doing it mostly on Skype or Zoom or something like that. So she changed her business model to fit into the lifestyle she wanted to create. And if you don't have a vision in the first place, it's kind of hard to do that. You have to know where you're starting from.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of times women I know of, it just comes out as frustration. They're frustrated, they're burned out, they can't really articulate what it is but they're in that space, and you know when you're in that space. And I mean, you know, as everyone's listening to this interview, if you're in that space, right, you're overwhelmed, you're burned out, you're just feeling like you're putting in too much effort and you're not getting the results you're looking for and you're not happy, right? And, you know, it could be an incongruence with exactly what Sherry's talking about. It's not obvious. You think maybe I just need to be happier, but in reality, the big missing is that you might need to look at your vision, and it's not just something you just create out of nowhere. Like, I think that's another thing that's big is like vision. Well, what's vision? You know, and so can you talk just to, like, just very briefly from like a high level, what does vision mean?
Well, to me, vision means if you put yourself in a place, I usually start with a year from now, sometimes I'll go as far as 5 years from now. If you literally put yourself in, literally, I guess it's not literally, it's figuratively, in your mind, put yourself in that place of, let's say, 1 year from today, what's going on in your life and in your business when you have everything you envision wanting a year from now or 5 years from now, whatever you're using. And get really clear on that and allow yourself to dream. We've lost, in our society, we've lost a lot of the ability to dream because of kind of those day-to-day pressures of life. And when you allow yourself to open up and really look at what is it that you really want, then you can get clear on how that fits, how your business fits into that. Because again, your business then fits into the life instead of your life fitting into your business. And in fact, this time of year is great because it's that beginning of the new year. It's such a great time to reflect and really get clear on what we do want for the year to come. So if you think about at the end of this year, December 31st, what do I want life to be like? Who am I spending my time with? What does a typical day look like? What's my personal environment like? Where am I living? Now, you know, Joseph, I made a lifestyle decision 6 months ago to sell my home, and I'm traveling full time. And I pretty much have a vision for 2019 of where I'm going to be and what life is going to look like. And it's not in stone, and it's not even all planned out, but I generally know what I want 2019 to look like in terms of that part of my life, if you will, so that I can build the business that fits into that. I do something, I call it my year in review, and in fact, we're going to give folks access to it today, where it'll help you to look at the successes that you've had in the past year, celebrate those successes. Celebrating, by the way, is another thing that entrepreneurs don't do well. We tend to be focused on, okay, that's done, what's next? When it's so powerful to take a step back and celebrate the successes that you've had. Start with that. What are the milestones that you hit this year? What are the goals that you achieved? I also think it's important to reflect not just on the milestone, I hit 100K this year, let's say, but also how did it make you feel? And dropping into that feeling of success, pride, acknowledgement, whatever it might be, is really where the juice is. Because remembering how that made you feel can also energize you for the next goal. It's also when we're not having such a good time, that's the role of the year in review and your vision. When things aren't going so well in your business, when as an entrepreneur, I always talk about we have these troughs, and it's always like this. When you're in one of those troughs and you're at the bottom, your vision, your year in review work, that's what keeps you going. Because that vision has to be bigger than any obstacle that's going to get in your way, because there will be obstacles in order for you to keep going. And that's part of what I think having a vision does, is it really keeps you grounded in what are you going to want.
Yeah, and I love what you were saying about going into the feeling part, and I think that's so important, like for us to step as women and male allies to realize the power of the feminine, as opposed to always feeling like we have to be in our masculine energy all the time to get stuff done, right? And stepping back and really feeling, and having that impact, us really knowing, one, are we aligned with our vision? And two, as Sherry was saying, having us really be the impetus to motivate us, right? Because at the end of the day, you are the fuel for your business. And if you're drained, then there is no business, or it's lacking, or it's currently hanging out still in the parking lot, right? And
absolutely.
so, I love that. And I think, the other thing I was going to say is, for me, and I'm curious what you found with other people, but for me personally, sometimes when I'm setting a vision, I have these great ideas and I'm like, oh, I can do this in the next, 20 years or whatever. And I have all these ideas in my head, but then I go to write it down. And then sometimes I have this little voice in my head that's like, are you really able to do that? You haven't done that before. So for me, having another person there that can hold a space for me to be my biggest self, has made a difference. And I know this is something that comes up, is a lot of times people are like, well, now I know the question, do I really need somebody to hold that space for me? I'm just curious, Sherry, is that a me thing, or do you find that with other women too?
I find that all the time, not just with other women, but with myself as well. One of the easiest ways to support you in getting through that hurdle is to read your vision aloud to someone that you love. Because when you read it aloud, it makes it more real and it helps you drop into what it really means to you. And having the courage to put it out there is so powerful. And you can actually enroll a business partner, a colleague, a significant other in your vision. And I've had so many clients that have told me that, they read their vision letters, even just to their, not even just, to their spouses. And their spouse has been amazed at the clarity of what they really wanted. And the spouse never even really realized how important it was to that, usually it's a woman that I'm working with, how important it was to that woman that this is what their life is like. Because remember, the vision letter is not just about the business. It's about the role that spouse or significant other plays as well. So the fact that part of why you want this business to be successful is so that you can retire your spouse. It's an example I get from quite a few women. How powerful is that for your spouse to know that? So absolutely, I agree. Bringing in someone that can help you be accountable. And just another easy way is to just post your vision letter. Sometimes people like to do vision boards. If you're really visual, sometimes a vision board can be really powerful. But post it somewhere in your workspace so that you constantly have view of it. If it is a vision letter, read it to yourself at least once a month. And your vision letter it's a living, breathing document. So it can constantly be updated. It's not static, and your vision will change, and that's okay. It's just like your plan. One of the things I hear about why people don't want to do a plan is, well, I don't have any idea what's going to happen in the fourth quarter of this year, so why plan for it? And so they just resist the plan in total. And I get that. As entrepreneurs, we have to have some flexibility. It's one of the reasons why I always recommend that you plan, that you have broad annual goals, but plan in more detail for 90 days, 180 at the outside, and then have general plans for what you want for the rest of the year. And don't spend your time trying to figure out in detail what you're going to do in fourth quarter. Because as entrepreneurs, our lives are too flexible to know in detail what we're going to do in fourth quarter. Would you agree, Joyce, with that?
I can neither confirm nor deny, although I will confirm.
Got
it. That's great. That's great. So, I'm curious too. I'm sure there's people who are listening today and they might be thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, I'm spinning my wheels. I'm out there. I am, doing I realize I'm not getting where I want to go as fast as I want, or I'm not getting there at all, or oh my gosh, I really need to go back and look at this. So I mean, I guess two questions coming out of that. One is for these people that are spinning and they're like, they need a plan, but now they're like, should I just do what I'm doing? Because if I stop doing it, then maybe I won't make money. But then on the flip side, I really need this plan. So should I just do the plan? But if I don't do the plan, then I'm not going to make money. Like, what should I do? Like, what would you say to them?
Well, first I would say take a breath. and I do mean that in all seriousness, because part of what keeps us in the spin is not taking a breath and not grounding ourselves back to the vision. Because again, your plan, your vision is just step one of the plan. And I talked about the 5 steps to the profit planning formula. The first step is to create your vision, your foundation, and that's your vision, your mission, your year in review. Those are the elements that can make up that foundation. Once you have that in place, then you can start to drill down. And when you, another misconception is it takes a lot of time to plan. And the reality is you can create your plan easily in an afternoon. It's really, in the way I do it, it's really 3 pieces of paper. And the third piece of paper, you're going to keep updating as you go through the year. That's what a plan is. A plan is not a 100-page document. Josie, I know you were in corporate, I was in corporate. We used to start planning. Our corporate year ended in May. We started planning in August. And the end of August through like October, we were planning. And we always used to say the minute the plan was done, it was obsolete. So all those months of planning to have a document that basically is obsolete. And again, it was a 100-page document. It's not what we're talking about for an entrepreneur. We're talking about really getting clear on what are the 3 annual goals. That's step 2, is setting your annual goals. What are the 3 non-negotiable annual goals that you have for, let's say, this year, just because we're in the beginning of the year now. And if in doubt, the 3 annual goals as an entrepreneur I would set would be, the first one would be revenue or profit. If you're tracking your profit, which I hope that you are, profit is an even better goal to set than revenue, because if your revenue goal is $100,000 and you spend $100,000 to create it, it's not so much of a good deal. So profit is always a better measure, if you will, of your success. The second one is for most entrepreneurs, it's number of clients or number of products that you sell. So it's more of a volume kind of goal. And then the third goal is, what's the biggest project that you're going to implement in your business this year that's going to have a dramatic impact on you creating that revenue, hitting that revenue goal and getting that number of clients or selling that number of products. If in doubt, those 3 goals are where I always start with my clients. Once you have the annual goals, then you can start to develop what I call milestones. And milestones are, for each of those 3 annual goals, what are the stepping stones throughout the year, and I do try to do this in quarters, that you feel like you need to hit in order to make that annual goal. So let's say that one of your big projects is you're going to create a membership site. And your goal for the year is 100 members. Well, if you know that you're not going to be launching it until, let's say, quarter 2, then a milestone might be in quarter 2, the launch date, and a milestone in quarter 3 might be hitting 50 members. And then, of course, by the end of the year, you'd have your goal of 100 members. So that's an example of a milestone. It's a big rock in the road that you know when you hit that you're on the right path, you're on the right trajectory to hit your annual goals. So that's step 1, which is setting your annual goals, or step 2, excuse me, vision foundation number 1, and annual goals number 2. Once you have those annual, does that make sense? Any questions on that, Josie, for annual goals?
No, I mean, I think it sounds really clear, and I really hope at this point, if you have pens and paper, or we live in such a hybrid world, or your computer notes, or you're writing on your arm, whatever it is. I mean, this is worth, seriously, if I don't like marking up my hand, but like the stuff that you're giving us is worth, honestly, taking your pen out and writing it on your hand.
Well, and I'll give it a little easier is in the handout, there's actually a picture, a visual of the pyramid, and it has the 5 steps, so you can actually take some notes on the steps as we go through that too.
Oh, that's perfect. That's even better than writing on your hand.
Yeah, it lasts a little bit longer, and unless you're not planning on taking a shower for some time.
Yes, and so what I do recommend to everybody is, if you haven't yet, make sure that you're starting a PHP folder on your computer, and make sure you're putting this in there. Like, it's not something that it just is inside and then it goes away, because this is something you're going to want to refer to throughout the year. This handout is golden. There's not tons of handouts out there that are going to help you plan to be profitable, not just plan in general. So golden, worth writing even on your hand. Okay, go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so let's recap. So we've got step 1 is building your foundation, your vision, your mission, using the year in review template, which we'll give you access to here in just a few minutes. And then step 2 is all about your annual goals, setting those annual goals and milestones. The third step is about prioritizing the projects that are going to be required in order for you to hit those milestones and, of course, ultimately the annual goals. So this is where that brainstorming that we talked about comes in. So if the goal, I just use the example of the membership site. If your goal is to have 100 people in your membership site, there's 100 ways you could get them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'd already talked about, if you try to do 100 different strategies, none of them are going to work, because you're simply not going to have time, and you're going to be so burned out, you're going to give up probably. So this step is about really narrowing down what are the projects that I'm excited about, that I have confidence are going to build the revenue or the number of clients or get me on that path to hit those milestones and annual goals that I've set. And I always start here again with the brainstorming process. And one of the things I like to do is to get 3 colors of sticky notes. So Post-it notes, like 3x3 size, work well. And a big old black magic marker, or whatever color magic marker. And get yourself 3 pieces of flip chart paper. And on the first flip chart paper, you're going to write business foundations. On the second, you're going to write content and content for now. And then on the third one, you're going to write marketing strategies. And what I want you to do then is take those pieces of Post-it notes, and just allow yourself to brainstorm. And as you write an idea on the flip chart piece of paper, paste it on the flip chart paper that it kind of goes with. So again, keeping on our membership site theme, I have to create a portal, right? I have to have an online portal for them to go to get access to the membership site. So I might write create portal. Well, that's a foundation, because business foundations are systems, processes, software, training, people, those kinds of things that create our foundation. They're the things that we need to run our business, basically. So create portal would be a flip chart paper I would put on business foundations. Let's say I decide I'm going to create a webinar in order to sell the membership to the membership site. Well, you might want to, you might not have a webinar system, so you might have another Post-it that's choose webinar software and put that on business foundations. Well, then you have to write your webinar, right? You got to write the content. So you might write webinar on your content page. And then, of course, you've got to actually decide how you're going to market the webinar and get people to it. Well, maybe you're going to do a Facebook ad. So you might put Facebook ads on your marketing strategies. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and keep going and just keep adding those Post-it notes without having the conversation like you said earlier, well, I don't know if this will work. This is brainstorming, no bad ideas, and don't overthink it. Just get everything up on those 3 pieces of paper. Once you have that out of your head, then you can easily go to each piece of paper and start prioritizing. In fact, one of the things you can do is then take each piece of paper and make it into 4 quadrants for each quarter of the year, and start placing those Post-it notes where in each quarter that you think that you might want to do that. And here's where it gets fun, because what I can almost guarantee is the first time you go through this process, you're going to have 28 Post-it notes in quarter one, 15 in quarter two, 3 in quarter three, and 1 in quarter four, or something like that. Because we always think we can do more faster than what's probably realistic, right? As entrepreneurs, we all want it now. That's okay when you're starting, because the goal then is to start whittling down those Post-it notes so you get to those top 3 priority projects in business foundations, in content, and in marketing strategies for at least the first quarter. So you're very clear on, if I can only do 3 things, I call it the rule of 3. It goes clear back to Aristotle, where our brains are designed that we can easily handle 3 things at a time. So everything you do, if you think about it in 3s, you'll be more productive. So we're going to come up with 3 projects for each of those 3 priorities: business foundations, content, and marketing strategies, that we're going to focus on in each quarter. And if you don't have 3 for the quarter 3 and quarter 4, no problem. That's basically where your parking lot goes, because you're not going to do everything you brainstormed, right? We're going to come up with things. We're going to say, nope, I'm throwing that one out. I don't think that makes sense. You can still keep them if you want to, but it basically becomes a puzzle where you start laying out your year visually. And that's so powerful to see where you're over committing yourself. Because if you've got 28 projects in quarter 1, it isn't going to happen no matter if you're Superwoman. So really making the tough choices of, if I have to do this or that, which one do I really think is going to give me more joy, because that's important, and move me ahead further and faster in my business.
Now I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious, Sherry, when you're talking about people posting in these different quarters, are you talking about literally like drawing a quadrant and having them put it on each of this? Or are you talking about like a real calendar with real dates?
Well, actually, that's the next step.
Okay. Sorry, I preempted you.
You're right. You're going exactly the right place. Because remember, what we're doing is we're starting at 20,000 foot with the vision, then going down to the annual goals. Now we're talking about the quarterly priorities. The goal in the quarterly priorities is to get to the 3 big projects in each of the areas. Basically, I use business foundations, content design and delivery, and marketing strategies, because particularly for newer entrepreneurs, they tend to make it easier to think about it in those 3 buckets than to just kind of start from scratch, if you will. And honestly, if you get more projects than that, you're probably, again, setting yourself up to be an overwhelm, because you're trying to do too much. So that would be, so the goal would be to get to a quarterly priority for at least Q1 and Q2, and feel pretty good about that in step 3 of the process, so that in step 4, which is what you just brought up, you can actually start to put the plan, the actual execution of the plan in place. Because the fact of the matter is, you can come up with the best annual goals, the best milestones, and even the best quarterly priorities. And if you don't actually execute it, what's going to happen? You're not going to create the results, right?
Right.
So the execution is where the rubber meets the road. And that's, where in step 4, you start bringing it down to what I call the business dashboard. And the business dashboard is all about, now that I know what the priority projects are and I know what my annual goals are, what are my actual goals by month? And what are the projects that I'm going to focus on in the next 90? I actually like to do 90 days. I do monthly goals for 180 days, just so I'm looking out a little farther. But on projects, I like to focus on 90 days because it's so much more manageable for us usually to think about 90 days out than even 6 months, quite honestly. Remember, this is a living, breathing document, so you're going to be updating it as you go. It's not going to be static. You're not going to wait until day 91 to do day 91 to 180. That makes sense. It's constantly going to be something you're updating. Let's see, what else have I had not talked about? That's pretty much, actually, one other thing I'll say about step 4 is, one thing that I find is incredibly valuable is creating a visual representation of the milestones and the key projects and priorities as you're doing the quarterly planning, is to go out and get one of those big annual laminated calendars. They're I don't know what they are. They're probably like 20 by 30 or something like that.
Mm.
That has the whole year, month by month. And start with the big rocks and put in your milestones. Use some little, I use those flagging Post-it notes that you can pull off that are pretty small.
Mm.
And I'll go in and I'll write my milestones on a flag note and put it on the date that I'm putting in, that I'm putting the stake in the ground that I'm going to hit it. So if it's launching a webinar, you might put the day that you're going to do the first webinar, maybe on the annual calendar. And it gives you a visual representation of what's coming up. So even though you're not going to plan in detail more than that 90 to 180 days, if you know you want to launch a membership site, but you're not going to do it until third quarter, let's say, there's still work that gets to be done in the first half to make that happen.
Yeah.
So you need to have that kind of rock in your mind, and the calendar becomes that visual reminder of that. I think a lot of us are pretty visual, so that's why I like the brainstorming method with the flip charts. You can do all this on your computer too, but I just feel like the tangible flip charts and the tangible calendar are a lot easier for people. And it also, I think, maybe is a little less intimidating, if that makes sense. Does it feel like it would be to you, Jose?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think the thing is too, sometimes what I see with entrepreneurs is that when they're just planning things in their head, it doesn't seem like there's too much to do. And sometimes they're not concerned about things that really will get them in trouble if they don't act quickly on, just because they don't see the next week. They just see what's in front of them, or they're so in a rhythm. And I think the other thing is it brings that creativity, it brings that fun for us creatives. You know, we don't want just some boring planning session. You know, having these little flags and getting to choose our colors and getting to write in different, you know, colors or whatever. I mean, that makes a difference. And you know, the other thing I love about what you're talking about with a laminated calendar versus having, you know, your day timer is what somebody told me was, she said it was very disheartening for her actually, because what would happen was she would set milestones on this physical planner and then she'd be crossing them off. And by the time she got to the date, it was just a constant reminder of all the things that she failed to do in a timely manner, or had moved, and it just wasn't empowering. There was all these cross ups. So I love that you can just easily move it and you don't have to worry about that. So that's really awesome.
Absolutely. And part of the execution plan is the tracking and seeing how you're doing against those results. Not to beat ourselves up about missing it if we missed it, but to learn what worked well and what didn't work so well so that we can shift going forward. And I've moved things back. I move things back all the time because I'm just as good as the next entrepreneur in terms of thinking I can get more done than I actually can. And it just having that ability to make those changes pretty quickly and easily on the laminated calendar, to me, works really well. In fact, right now, my biggest challenge is because I'm traveling full time, I don't have my laminated calendar because I can't fit it in my suitcase. And honestly, it's probably one of the tools in my business that I miss the most, because it was always right by my computer in my office.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to find the next laminated app or something.
I tell you, something, yeah. It's just not the same doing it on a paper calendar for some reason. Anyway, okay, so let's see. What else do we want to talk about in terms of the plan? So the annual plan, the business dashboard I talked about, getting you down to those monthly objectives. Let me talk for just 1 minute about setting monthly objectives, because this is something else that kind of freaks people out, to be honest. A lot of those that I work with, they say, well, I don't have any idea. And the reality is, it's not about the actual number that you put on paper as much as it is about you thinking through what it needs to look like in order for you to hit your annual goal. So I'm just going to continue on the theme. If you've got that goal of 100 people in your membership site by the end of the year, and it's January 1, well, where do you want to be by the end of June? And let's just arbitrarily say you want to be at 50. Well, okay, if you're at 0 now and you're 50 at the end of June, well, you just did your first 2 months because you're starting at 0 and you're going to get to 50. So now it's, okay, well, when am I actually going to get my first member? Well, I've got to get the membership site in place and create the portal, figure out my marketing. So it's not going to be until April 1 that I actually launch and do my first offer. Okay, well, now you know that January, February, March are 0. And you know that you get from 0 to 50 in March, April, May, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that right? No, April, May, June. What quarter is quarter?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can say, okay, well, in the first month, I want to really be aggressive. So I know that I want to get to 35 of that 50 in the first month, because that's when I'm going to be spending the most on Facebook ads or whatever you're going to be doing. So you set 35 for April. Well, between 35 and 50, I'm going to say 45. And that's about as much thinking as I want you to put into these numbers. You're not, it isn't a test. And it isn't about, are you at 50 or are you at 40 at the end of 6 months? If you had a goal of 100 for the year and you were at 40 at the end of 6 months, would you be unhappy? Probably not. It's a brand new program and you're within 10 of your goal. That gives you plenty of time the rest of the year to learn from what you did and make adjustments to still hit that annual goal. So that's really what I do for the monthly planning. It's not rocket science. And I could go on about this forever. So I think I'm going to stop there on that, because I do want to talk about the last step just a little bit, which is about managing and tracking the plan on a day-to-day basis. This is also where I think entrepreneurs get tied up a little bit, because they might even have the goals in place, but as you said, in a day-to-day basis, the goals aren't in front of them, so they're not really sure what to work on.
Yeah.
And how many times do you have one of your clients or somebody in the promoter business tribe even say, well, I just don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. Well, one of the easiest ways to stay out of overwhelm is to use some kind of a system to support yourself that tells you what the next 3, yes, the number 3, what the next 3 actions are that you can take that are going to move you towards that goal. And I use what I call the results planner, which is a 3x3x3 system. So it's taking those top 3 goals for ease, the business foundations, content design and delivery, and marketing strategies, the 3 key projects within each of those 3 overall areas that you're going to put in place, and the next 3 actions that you're going to take on each of those priorities to drive you towards success. So every day when you get up, you've got a piece of paper that you can look at and say, what do I need to work on today? And you've got the next action steps right in front of you. And as soon as an action step is completed, you can just add the next action step. And you keep rolling over that results plan to keep you on task. Now, if that kind of it is kind of a pen and paper method, seems like, oh, I don't want to do that, then there are software tools that can help you in managing and tracking your projects. I tend to recommend Teamwork for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's pretty easy for just about anybody to use. And there's a free version that I have some secret ways that you can use the free version till you're actually probably pretty big in your business, certainly into the 6 figures. And in the Teamwork version, then you're going to start adding those action steps basically into the software, and you can actually set deadlines and it reminds you, and you can have it all online if that's more how you work. Have you ever used Teamwork, Josie?
I haven't used Teamwork. I mean, I've used Asana.
Yes, similar to Asana, and even Slack. We use Slack for the promoter business community, or for our leadership team. You can do some of this in Slack. I don't find Slack quite as user-friendly for project planning.
Yeah.
But you can get a lot of the way there if it's just you. You can do it in a to-do list, but to-do lists get overwhelming. And to-do lists, we tend to just make a laundry list of all the things that we could do. And so then what tends to happen is we focus on things that seem easy and aren't necessarily the ones that are going to drive us forward towards the goals.
Right, and then it's not organized by project category either, so things are scattered all over and they're not in steps.
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you ever used Trello?
I have not personally used it, but I have had clients that used it and have liked it. So it's another option, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're basically project management software.
Okay.
And the key thing that you want is something that allows you to set up the projects and the sub projects, the sub steps that you need to take in order to achieve it. And the beauty of all of these we're talking about is once you get an outline of all the steps that you take, you can download that into Excel, and when you start another project that's similar, you're going to upload it back into your software and just change the dates. So it becomes something that's really easy for you to manage. Of course, I'm a bit of a techie. I'm pretty much computer. I do everything pretty much on my computer, so I'm biased that way.
No, I love that. And I think it's, the other thing I just really want to acknowledge you, not just learning from Sherry, the other thing I want to acknowledge you for is, how unusual it is to have somebody who's as seasoned as you are as a business coach, also be an expert in marketing, also be this well-versed in productivity. I mean, that is just unheard of. Like, usually you'd have to go to 3 different people to get this level of knowledge. And then on top of it, to have your level of tech sophistication. It's just off the charts. So it is just such a blessing to have you as a chapter advisor. And I mean, you must just be such a blessing to anybody who's your client. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm a bit of a generalist, so I'm very fortunate in the last 18 years. I have gotten to learn, a fair amount about a lot of things, and I love it. I love what I call the business of running a business. And in order to run a business, you have to kind of know a little bit about a lot of things. So thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it.
Cool.
Okay, so do we want to talk about any other questions before we kind of wrap up?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about where you go from here, right? Because everybody, I'm sure you're sitting saying, okay, now I got all this information. Where do I start? Well, one place that I can support you in starting is with the year in review that I mentioned. And the year in review, just to recap, is a great way to take stock on what happened in the last year and really start thinking about what do you want to create in the year to come. And if you go to resultspartner.com, so it's results plural partner singular.com /review, you'll find there the year in review template, and you can get that, download it to your computer, and I would recommend you set aside an hour. It doesn't take a lot of your time, but set aside an hour to just take stock on that and to really start setting yourself up for what you want going into this coming year. Review the handout. The handout, I talked through the 5 steps today, and you've got the 5 steps on the handout. If you have any questions, if I can support you in any way, I love the PHP community, and if I can support you, just shoot me an email. You can always get me at Sherry, SHERRI, @resultspartner.com. I'm here to support the community because we've got so many people with amazing gifts to share here. And my mission with my business is that anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur has a gift to share, and they deserve not only to share that gift with the world, but to make a great income doing it and to have the lifestyle that they want. So go get the handout, reach out to me if I can support in any way, and just start putting on paper what you get to create in 2019 and beyond.
Perfect. And we will also be sending out an email that will also have these links in it. You've already received the handout link, but definitely we'll also be sending out the year in review template, which, as Sherry said multiple times, is really the first step and really your leap to having your best year yet, right? So thank you, Sherry, so much for being with us today. We appreciate you. We appreciate how you made it so clear to us in terms of the 5 steps to really move towards profitability and the rule of 3. So I know you gave us a ton to think about. I'm really hoping everybody took some copious notes. And there was so much power in what Sherry said. So it would not surprise me if you even want to go back, you want to bookmark this interview, you want to go listen to it again in the future, and even better, get to know Sherry in person, take her up on emailing her, contacting her, doing the year in review template, doing a consult with Sherry, because she is such a golden resource to the community.
Thank you, Jess, as you are.
Thank you. Great. So the last thing is we also will be sending out a survey this afternoon. So let us know what your thoughts are on today's interview. I know we only had so much time, and if you want to go deeper into certain topics over the next coming year, we want to hear them. We read every single word, and you can enter to win a session with us as well. All right, so with that said, keep promoting your business and each other. Say it with me now. Online, offline,
all the
time. Okay,
not quite in sync on that one.
Well,
bye everybody.